Oh my god, I love this engine. Is newer always better? We have a 2009 BMW M3, that's the E92 generation, with a 6-speed manual transmission, against a 2020 BMW M2 Competition, also with the 6-speed manual transmission. With newer M3s getting larger and larger, it actually makes sense to compare a more recent M2 against the M3 because the M2 is closer in size and weight to the older M3s. In fact, both of these cars weigh in right around 3,600 pounds. But the question is, let's say you have 50 to 60K. You can get a used example of this E92. The range is pretty wide, but let's say like 30 to 45K on average. Or you could get the F2 comp, the F87 generation, for about 50 to 55K on the used market. So with that budget, of course, you have some left over for mods. And the owner here has modified this E92 with about 10K in mods. So the overall money spent across two vehicles is quite comparable. The E92 is powered by the legendary 4-liter naturally aspirated V8, that's the S65, making 414 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. The M2 Comp, on the other hand, is powered by a twin turbocharged inline 6, that's a 3-liter, that's the S55, making 405 horsepower, 406 pound-feet of torque with a 7,600 RPM redline. Both are strut front and multi-link rear suspension. In terms of mods on the E92, we have Ohlins Road and Track coilovers, Dinan camber plates, Stoptech ST40 Trophy kit front and rear, BBS E88 Schirmer spec, BMW M performance exhaust, mid-pipe carbon intake plenum, pulleys, a BMP Stage 1 tuned RTD chassis mounted shifter. It's a short shift kit, the Renown 330mm steering wheel, and of course can't forget the Recaros as well. Well, the shifter is really far away. I'm in first, and I got big hands, but I really got to stretch to make that touch. But it's very, when they say chassis mounted, they really mean that it's super rigid, super tight. There's no play or anything here. Oh, look at that! The road and track coilovers right off the bat are feeling excellent. When you get them dialed in just right for a vehicle, they're such a great balance point. I mean, hence the name, right? Road and track. I'm gonna take this out of this power mode just to test the throttle response. I should let this Miata pass. This guy's mobbing. It's not just the power of the vehicle, right? It's how you drive it, it's the weight as well. Oh my god, I love this engine. It is the centerpiece. That is the reason you get this car. You want that naturally aspirated V8, super linear, encourages you to rev it out. There's no lag, there's no nonsense. The sound isn't muted. Red line of 8,000 RPM. Still haven't even hit it yet on this drive. My god. Yeah, I guess throttle response is, it's like not perfectly dialed in with power engaged, because it does feel a little bit on-off switch, a little bit binary, but not as bad as something like an E46. Now the steering has this weird stickiness to it, which I'm interpreting as friction in the rack, where it doesn't want to actually fully return to center. It could also be alignment, not enough caster. And as a result, a lot of the feedback through the wheel is muted. When you have a wheel like this, it actually transmits more information than something that's stock. And if you pay close attention, you can feel some communication through the wheel, but it feels like it's been passed through a filter a few times. It's like hearing music, rather than in full dynamic range and full vibrancy, it's muted behind like earmuffs, as an example. It's there, but it's very slight. Shifter's a bit too far, and it's also pretty high effort. Which makes it not super congruent with the other inputs, because the steering is not very heavy, it's more of a medium weighting. This is the thing that is the heaviest input, most effort, highest effort, whereas brakes are not also overly aggressive or not requiring a ton of force. These are smaller details that, if you care about, you can dial in with your choice modifications. But I'm just nitpicking here. Overall, the car, the inputs are feeling pretty natural for the most part. Road and track coilovers giving me some good confidence around these corners as well. It's a smoother road, but you can feel the balance in the car. It's relatively neutral. It's doing what you're expecting, and as I'm pushing it mid-corner, I can feel the front end get ever so slightly light. On some of the lower speeds, if I'm really aggressive with the throttle input, I can feel a little bit of that rotation, a little bit of that wiggle. I have to reach all the way over to shift. This thing is so far. Man. Such great cars. And given the work that the owner has put into the car, oh man, you're getting a lot of driving enjoyment and value at the price point. I'd like to make this lower effort, or make the brakes a little bit higher effort, have a little bit more of an aggressive bite, but man, I mean, there's a reason why these cars are loved so much amongst enthusiasts. They have all the right ingredients. The front engine, rear wheel drive, naturally aspirated engine. It's a fucking V8 going to 8 grand. It's an awesome car. But now let's see how it compares to the M2 Comp. 2020 BMW M2 Competition. This one is essentially stock, except for the exhaust. It has the active Autowerke equal length midpipe and axleback exhaust. You can get this with the 6-speed manual or the 7-speed DCT. 0 to 60 with the DCT is 4.0, and with the 6-speed it's 4.2. But of course, we're gonna pay that 2/10 for the sake of more engagement. Much more modernized interior as well. Now the funny thing is that in both cars the seat is offset. In that car it's actually far more. I was sitting like 1.5 inches to the left and rotated out. Here I'm more centered, but I'm still rotated out. And I don't know why they've done that. It must be because of the pedals. They couldn't get it close enough to the center, I'm guessing, so they needed to shift things over. To disable rev match, we have to put DSC off like that. Really long throw with this clutch, and your foot goes way further than the other pedal, so it's actually harder to get into an optimal seating position for that reason. We're going to change throttle mapping to sport here. Start it in sport steering as well. Wow. Very different engine character, obviously. Here we have the turbos, the spooling up, the lag that comes with that. But you get a lot of power here too. So it's a trade-off. The S55 feels more special than the N55 from the base M2. Far more special. More of a linear power build. Not as flat. And it encourages you to push it toward redline. Feels a little bit more motorsport inspired in that way. But this example being closer to stock, of course, you're not able to get it to where you want it to be like you can with the E92. So as an example, the transmission is super rubbery, especially in this generation. Very long throws as well. Look at how long that is. It's actually, the throw is so long that it becomes not optimally ergonomical from like back here, and like my shoulder is bent so far back that my arm is now hitting the bolstering of the seat. It's unnecessarily long and it has that rubberiness. It's not very enjoyable. It's something that I would want to modify. Now both cars give you confidence, but that with the current suspension setup there is even more confidence inspiring. It feels even more planted. Here, I feel a little bit higher up. I mean, granted, I literally am lower with those seats, but the actual center of gravity of the vehicle feels a little bit lower there, and it feels a little bit higher here. Compared to a regular M2 though, this definitely feels far more planted, more confidence inspiring. Steering is lacking in feedback. Now in that steering, it wasn't perfect because we had that friction. Here, I'm not having the friction issue, the stickiness issue. I'm just having a feeling of disconnectedness to the front end. I'm not getting much communication. I'm going to put this into Sport Plus, which adds a little bit more heft to the wheel, but of course you're not actually improving the communication. You're just making it feel heavier. These things are rockets though. So much performance, so much capability. You're just lacking some of that feel. It's better than the new M2, but you see this gradation with the older M3s. You're getting far more communication, and I think the E90 and the E46 are the two best generations of M3 because you have that modern driving dynamic while it's still feeling analog, whereas here we're now starting to shift into that slightly more digital age. Tons of communication, a little bit more floatiness to the suspension too. Not quite as buttoned down as the E90 ahead of us. Or the E92, I should say. Brakes here also require a lot of travel before you start getting into that bite. The communication of most inputs just feels like it's dialed back. If there's a knob, they just said, hey, let's take away 40% of the feedback of the communication, maybe even more than that. But unlike the M3, at least the inputs are more congruent here. The weighting of the steering, the weighting of the transmission, the weighting of the pedals, how gradual or immediate they are. At least in these modes, we can actually try this on Sport Plus. And yeah, as expected, with a lot of these BMW M cars, they make the Sport Plus the most aggressive setting, a little bit too on-off, so it's a little bit too binary. I'm gonna put that back to Sport. Because when you go too binary, then you lose the resolution in that initial travel, and you don't want that. This engine feels, again, more special than the N55 and the regular M2, but not quite as great as that naturally aspirated V8, the S65. It's just... there's no replacement for displacement, they say. But I'd argue that even more importantly is just whether you're naturally aspirated or not. In this day and age, it's becoming more and more rare. And I think a lot of us car enthusiasts, we crave that connectedness, that immediacy, the build, the sound. I mean, that engine in that car is just something else, though. Arguably the best engine in any M3. I think most people would agree with that easily. Yeah, driving these two examples back to back now, it's really opening my eyes to the gradation. It's like the going into the more digital, more numb age. And this still has a little bit of steering communication. This has a little bit more chassis communication overall than something like the new M2, the G87. But the nice thing is when you go for an older model, you can save that additional cash and put it towards mods, getting it just how you want it. You can fix the things that you don't like. For a lot of people, that's going to be the shifter in a BMW M3. You can optimize the suspension and dial it in for the kind of driving that you want to do. If it was my money, I'd be going with the E92 every day in its current setup compared to a stock M2 Competition. But I will also say that I'm pleasantly surprised that the M2 Competition is quite a step up versus the regular M2. But my friends, let me know which one you would pick with a comment down below. Big thanks to the owners, Chris and Dennis, for letting us review their cars. If you want your car reviewed, visit us on jabalandcars.com. Fill out the form on the homepage. I'll see you all in that next one.